Welcome to the Architect of Sleep channel. Today we will embark on a journey to the slowest, quietest, and largest mysteries of our planet, into the world of deep-sea gigantism. We will dive to where sunlight is but a distant, fading memory, and the pressure can crush steel, turning it into foil. In this realm of eternal night and primordial cold, the very laws of life bend and change, and evolution writes its most grandiose, strange, and melancholic poems. We will learn why the abyss, which at first glance seems empty and lifeless, is in fact a cradle for creatures whose size astounds and humbles the imagination. This will be a slow, meditative immersion into mystery, where each meter of depth reveals a new, unread page in the great book of incredible adaptations. If you enjoy these quiet journeys, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. This helps others find their way here, one sleepy soul at a time. And now, just breathe. Let your eyes grow heavy and your mind soften. Let us begin. Imagine you are standing on the edge of the world where the blue meets the sand, and your every step into the transparent coolness is an irreversible step into another dimension of being. At a depth of just 10 meters, where the last sunbeams dance, the pressure doubles, and the world of familiar sensations begins to disintegrate. Sounds become muffled and distorted. Light refracts as if you are looking through an ancient, imperfect crystal. This is just the thinnest membrane, a threshold beyond which the weight of the planet itself, expressed in a column of water, becomes the main sculptor and composer of life. For the fragile creatures that dwell there, this pressure is not a crushing burden, but a gentle yet unyielding cradle. It sculpts their flesh, slows the passage of their internal time, and gives them permission to grow to sizes that on land would be considered a fairy tale. This is the eternal embrace of the ocean, strong, constant, and inexpressibly ancient. This embrace grows tighter with every meter, and at a depth of 1,000 meters, it becomes an invisible vice, squeezing everything with the force of 100 atmospheres, as if the weight of a grand piano were pressing on every centimeter of your body. Here, in the Bathyal Zone, the zone of eternal twilight, the true kingdom of giants begins. Sunlight no longer penetrates here, photosynthesis is impossible, and life flows according to entirely different twilight laws. The temperature drops to almost zero, slowing all chemical processes in living organisms to the speed of snow falling through water. This cold is one of the main secrets of gigantism. It makes the metabolism work at half strength, stretching moments into hours and life into decades and even centuries, giving the body time to grow to colossal, unimaginable sizes. In this cold, dark water, much more oxygen is dissolved than in the warm, sunlit surface layers, where life teems and quickly consumes it. This is another paradoxical gift from the abyss to its chosen inhabitants. The abundance of oxygen, this gas of life, makes it possible to support enormous bodies, nourish colossal muscle masses and complex nervous systems in conditions of almost complete stillness. For creatures living under incredible pressure, efficient respiration is the key to survival and growth. Their blood and tissues are saturated with gases under such pressure that for us, it would be like an explosion. But for them, it is the very essence of breathing. Deep, slow, rhythmic, like time itself at the bottom of the eternal ocean. For many of these creatures, the blood is not even red, but blue, almost colorless, as if woven from the water itself. Instead of iron-based hemoglobin, their blood uses hemocyanin, a copper-based protein that binds and transports oxygen. Hemocyanin is less efficient than hemoglobin in warm, oxygen-rich environments, but in cold, oxygen-poor water, it becomes an advantage. It functions better at low temperatures and is not as sensitive to changes in pressure. This blue blood is another quiet adaptation, a chemical poem written by cold and darkness, allowing the giants to breathe where red blood would have already frozen in futility. Here, in the depths, a principle known as Bergmann's rule comes into play, but it takes on a completely new, oceanic form. On land, it states that in colder climates, animals tend to be larger to better conserve precious heat. In the ocean, where the water temperature is stable and nearly identical to body temperature, this rule acquires a different, more profound meaning. A large body has a smaller surface area to volume ratio, which in cold water helps not so much to conserve heat as to radically optimize energy expenditure. A gigantic body is an efficient vessel for life, slowly, almost meditatively consuming precious energy in a world where the next meal might occur in months, years, or even decades. Food in these dark gardens is an unimaginable luxury, eternally falling from above in the form of so-called marine snow. It is a continuous, almost invisible slow rain of organic particles, the remains of plankton, fish scales, excrement, everything that dies in the upper sunlit layers and begins its long journey down. For the inhabitants of the bottom, this gray snow is the only source of sustenance, the celestial manna of the abyss. The ability to efficiently collect this scattered dust of life and store energy for an unimaginably long time is what determines survival. Therefore, gigantism here is also a strategy of a living reservoir. A large body is a huge cellar, capable of surviving the long, dark winters of famine, patiently waiting for the next generous gift to fall from the distant sky. The almost complete absence of active, fast predators also makes a significant contribution to this silent race for size. On land, or in the upper layers of the ocean, being large often means being a conspicuous and desirable target. In the abyss, where visibility is limited to a meter or two, and encounters are as random and rare as a falling star, gigantic size ceases to be a disadvantage. On the contrary, it becomes the most reliable armor, the highest fortress wall. Few in this dark, slow world would dare to attack a creature that is dozens of times larger than themselves. Thus, in the silence and darkness, evolution has allowed its children to grow without fear, reaching limits dictated only by the laws of physics and the availability of food. It is here, in this cradle of cold, pressure, and darkness, that we meet one of the most mythical creatures whose image has stirred the minds of sailors for centuries, the giant squid, Architeuthis. Its body, soft and streamlined, is boneless and resembles a living torpedo of flesh. It is perfectly adapted to life under unimaginable pressure. It has no skeleton that could be crushed. Its tissues are saturated with an ammonium chloride solution, which is lighter than seawater, making it nearly weightless, floating effortlessly in the water column. It is a true phantom, a creature of legend that only rarely reveals itself to man, leaving traces of its enormous suckers on the skin of sperm whales as proof of its unseen presence. The eyes of the giant squid are the largest in the entire animal kingdom, reaching the size of a dinner plate or even a basketball. This is not a whim of nature, not a random hypertrophy, but a vital tool for survival. In a world where the only light is the dim, ghostly glow of other living beings, the enormous pupil works like an ultra-sensitive telescope, allowing it to capture the faintest photons wandering in the gloom. These eyes gaze into the darkness, searching not for outlines, but for flashes, the bioluminescent signals of prey. or more importantly, of an approaching predator such as a sperm whale. These are windows into a world we can barely imagine, a world of living lights in an all-consuming, eternal darkness. Unlike its more famous and elongated relative, the colossal squid, Mesonicoteuthis hamiltoni, which inhabits the icy waters of the Antarctic, is even more massive, heavier, and more brutal. If the giant squid is a swift and long spear hunter, the colossal is a heavyweight wrestler, a gladiator of the deep. Its tentacles are studded not only with suckers, but also with sharp, swiveling hooks capable of inflicting terrible deep wounds. This creature seems born for a single purpose: an epic battle with the sperm whale, the only creature that dares to systematically hunt it. Their duels unfold in impenetrable darkness at a depth of 2 kilometers, and we can only guess at their ferocity from the deep scars on the bodies of whales. The nervous system of these cephalopod giants is a true marvel of evolutionary engineering, an example of a completely different path of intellectual development. Their neurons have the thickest axons, nerve fibers, in the animal kingdom, which allows them to conduct nerve impulses with incredible, almost instantaneous speed. This adaptation is absolutely necessary for coordinating a huge and complex body in 3-dimensional space for an instant reaction to a threat or opportunity in a world where a second decides everything. Their mind, so different from our own, is built on different principles, but it is just as complex. It is an intelligence born of pressure and darkness, thinking in images of light and movement in the silent, cold void. But if the mind of a squid is a flash, then the mind of another giant is an endless meditation. Imagine a creature that has turned hunger into an art, into a practice of waiting that lasts for years. This is the giant isopod, Bathynomus giganteus, or the equal-footed crustacean, an inhabitant of the abyssal plains. Resembling a giant woodlouse the size of a small dog, it slowly crawls along the silty bottom, eating everything that falls from above, from the remains of plankton to the carcass of a whale. Its metabolism is so slow that it can go without food for up to 5 years, falling into a state close to suspended animation. It does not live in our understanding of the word. It is present, like an ancient stone on which time has left but a single inscription: patience. But not everything in the deep is frozen in the stillness of a living stone. Others wear their bizarre armor with the grace of court dancers from bygone eras. The Japanese spider crab, which lives off the coast of Japan, has the largest leg span of any arthropod on the planet, up to 4 meters from the tip of one claw to the other. It looks like a drawing from a medieval bestiary come to life, a fragile and at the same time frightening structure. These incredibly long and thin legs allow it to step elegantly across the soft, silty bottom without sinking, and to reach food at a great distance without moving from its spot. It is an aristocrat of the depths, moving slowly and majestically through its underwater domains, as ancient as the horizon line itself. Its carapace, like that of other deep-sea crustaceans, is made of chitin, but with one key feature dictated by the titanic pressure. To withstand the weight of the water, it is much less calcified and more flexible than that of its shallow water relatives. It is not so much rigid armor as an elastic, resilient exoskeleton capable of compressing and bending under the weight of the water column without breaking. In a world where rigidity means fragility and inevitable death, evolution has chosen the path of compliance and pliability. These creatures do not fight the pressure. They accept it, allowing it to shape their bodies, making them a part of the environment itself. In this same cold water, among the stones and sand, live their distant relatives, resembling ghostly skeletons, the giant sea spiders. These are not true spiders, but pycnogonids, an ancient group of marine arthropods. They have a tiny body and incredibly long, thin legs, into which extensions of their digestive and reproductive systems reach. It is as if they have abandoned the very concept of a torso, turning into walking legs. Polar gigantism is especially pronounced in them. While most species have a leg span of a few millimeters, Antarctic species can reach 70 centimeters. They wander slowly along the bottom, sucking the juices from sponges and sea anemones like pale, fragile shadows forgotten here since the dawn of life. In the darkest and coldest canyons of the ocean floor live creatures resembling living glass sculptures created by an unimaginable artist. These are giant sea sponges, such as Monorhaphis chuni. Some of them form enormous single spicules, needles of almost pure, optically perfect silica, reaching 3 meters in length and 1 centimeter in thickness. These glass fibers serve as both their skeleton and their anchor on the seabed. They grow incredibly slowly, layer by layer, over thousands of years. By studying the layers of such a spicule, scientists can read the climatic history of the ocean, like the annual rings of the most ancient tree. This sponge is not just an animal, but a living archive, a silent chronicler of the abyss. For these creatures, time flows completely differently, on another geological scale. For a glass sponge, whose age can exceed 10,000 years, the entire history of human civilization is but a brief, barely noticeable episode. It was here when humans were just beginning to build the first cities, and perhaps it will be here when only dust remains of them. Its life is not a series of events, but a continuous, slow state of being, like a dreamless sleep. It filters water, grows a millimeter per century, and simply exists. In this lies its unimaginable greatness, in its ability to become one with time, transforming it from a turbulent current into a calm, motionless ocean. From the motionless creatures that have become part of geology, let's move on to the slow wanderers of eternity, and we will meet the Greenland shark. It is the longest living vertebrate on our planet, whose age can reach 500 years. Individuals swimming in Arctic waters today were born during the time of Shakespeare and Leonardo da Vinci. Its main secret lies in an extremely slow metabolism dictated by the icy water and darkness. It grows only 1 centimeter a year and reaches sexual maturity only by the age of 150. Its life is not a sprint, but a marathon through the centuries, a leisurely, sleepy journey through human history. The tissues of this Methuselah shark are saturated with a special substance, trimethylamine oxide, which acts as a natural antifreeze and a protein stabilizer under high pressure. However, this same substance, when it decomposes after death, makes its meat toxic when raw. This is a chemical armor, protecting it both from the inside and the outside. The Greenland shark is almost blind. Its eyes are often parasitized by special copepods that literally eat away the cornea. But in a world of eternal darkness or polar night, vision is not so important. It navigates by smell and electroreception, sensing the weak electric fields created by its prey, like a blind sage reading the world by touch. Its movements are slow and smooth. It seems sleepy, apathetic, immersed in its age-old thoughts. But this slowness is deceptive. It is a strategy of the highest order. The shark is an effective predator and scavenger, capable of attacking sleeping seals at the surface and devouring huge whale carcasses on the bottom. It is the living embodiment of the principle of energy conservation, taken to its absolute. Every flick of its tail is precise and economical, Every movement has a purpose. It does not waste energy needlessly, for in its world, energy is the hardest and rarest currency. Its existence is a lesson in patience and efficiency that the abyss teaches its oldest children. In the depths of the Pacific Ocean lives its close relative, the Pacific sleeper shark, just as slow-moving and mysterious. It is also one of the largest predators in its world, growing up to 7 meters in length. Like its Greenland cousin, it is a master of energy conservation, slowly patrolling the slopes of seamounts and abyssal plains. Scientists speculate that these sharks may use a unique hunting tactic for fast-moving squid. They do not pursue them, but rather sneak up slowly and stealthily, using their dark coloration and silent movement to close in for an attack before the prey can react. This is a hunt based not on speed, but on absolute stealth, on the ability to become part of the surrounding darkness. Like the Greenland shark, many deep-sea fish exhibit a clear tendency towards gigantism, as if the environment itself encourages them to grow. For example, the lancet fish can reach 2 meters in length while remaining thin and ribbon-like. It has no scales, and its body is flabby and watery, which helps it cope with the pressure and achieve neutral buoyancy. It is a perfect ambush predator, hovering in the water column, waiting for unwary prey. Its huge mouth, studded with dagger-like teeth, can swallow prey whole, even if it is comparable in size. In a world of rare encounters, not a single chance can be missed, and the lancetfish follows this rule strictly. Its grotesque counterpart in strategy could be called the gulper eel or pelican eel. This creature seems like a nightmare painted by a surrealist. Tiny eyes, a long whip-like body, and a huge, disproportionate mouth that can stretch like a sack. The gulper eel is, in essence, a swimming mouth with a stomach. It does not hunt actively, but drifts slowly in the darkness, its trap-like mouth wide open, in the hope that some inattentive fish or shrimp will accidentally fall in. Its strategy is the ultimate degree of energy minimalism, not to expend energy on pursuit, but simply to become a living, eternally hungry void, waiting to be filled. Another inhabitant of the Twilight Zone seems to have come from a world of strange geometry, the telescope fish. Its most notable features are its huge tubular eyes, which are permanently directed vertically upwards. They work like binoculars, allowing the fish to discern the silhouettes of potential prey, small crustaceans and fish, against the dim light filtering down from the surface. It hangs motionless in the water, like an astronomer perpetually gazing into its dark sky, waiting for the shadow of its next meal to float by. Its body, meanwhile, remains in the darkness, invisible to the prey. It is a life transformed into waiting for a shadow. And there are also those who do not just wait, but create their own secret light. The deep-sea dragonfish, Ideacanthus, is a true master of light illusions. It has not only the usual photophores that emit blue-green light for camouflage and communication, but also a special organ under its eye that glows red. Most deep-sea creatures are unable to see red light, as it is quickly absorbed by water and does not reach the depths. Therefore, for the Ideacanthus, this red beam is an invisible searchlight, a sniper's scope, allowing it to see its prey while remaining completely invisible to it. It is a personal, secret flashlight in a world of universal blindness. But perhaps the most infamously known creature for its appearance is the blobfish. Its image, where it looks like a sad, saggy jelly with a big nose, has become an internet meme. But this appearance is a tragic artifact of decompression. At its native depth of 600–1,200 meters, under immense pressure, The blobfish looks like a completely normal fish. Its body has a density slightly less than that of water, which allows it to float just above the seabed, expending almost no energy. It simply hangs in the water and swallows anything edible that floats by. It is not an ugly jelly, but a masterpiece of lazy efficiency, whose beauty is revealed only in its native, crushing element. Another famous example is the anglerfish, the king of grotesque adaptations. Females of some species can reach a meter in length, turning into a huge floating stomach with a lure, while males remain tiny dwarfs. This extreme sexual dimorphism is another brilliant adaptation to life in the darkness and emptiness. The female carries a luminous lure on her head, an esca, which houses symbiotic bacteria. The male, whose sole purpose is to find a female, bites into her body and fuses with her completely, turning into an appendage that supplies sperm in exchange for nutrients. He gives up his life and body for the sake of procreation, becoming a part of his gigantic partner. This light that deep-sea creatures emit is not just an ornament or a lure. It is the complex and multifaceted language of the abyss. Bioluminescence is used for hunting, for defense, for communication, and for sophisticated camouflage. Some squid, for example, have rows of photophores on their undersides that perfectly mimic the dim light filtering down from above, making them completely invisible to predators looking up from below. This is called counter-illumination. Every creature here is a living lantern, sending its secret, shimmering signals into the darkness, understood only by those who share this eternal, velvety night with it. Among these shimmering signals and shadows swims one of the strangest and most beautiful creatures, the oarfish. It is the longest bony fish in the world, whose length, according to some reports, can reach 11 meters. Its body resembles a giant silver ribbon, crowned with long, thread-like red rays of its dorsal fin. It swims vertically, head up, slowly undulating its body, and feeds on minuscule krill. Encounters with it are rare and almost always accidental, having given rise to many sea legends of giant serpents. It is a living myth, a fragile and delicate creature that seems woven from moonlight and sea foam. The fragility of its body is not a flaw, but another brilliant adaptation to life at depth. To avoid being crushed by the pressure, its skeleton is greatly reduced, and its muscles are flabby and watery. It cannot resist the pressure, so it yields to it, equalizing it from within. Its gigantic size, combined with an almost weightless, gelatinous structure, allows it to exist in the water column without expending precious energy on maintaining buoyancy. It does not swim, but soars, like a forgotten party streamer slowly descending into the abyss. Its beauty lies in its impracticality, in its ephemerality, in its otherworldly grace. But not all giants are so fragile and ephemeral. At the very foundations of life, by geothermal vents known as black smokers, dwell creatures built from entirely different alien blueprints. These are giant tube worms, Riftia. They reach 2 to 3 meters in height and live in dense colonies resembling a surreal underwater forest of white tubes. They have no mouth, no gut, no anus. They live in complete darkness under immense pressure and high temperatures, feeding on pure chemical energy emanating from the Earth's interior. This is life based not on the sun's energy, but on the energy of the planet itself. Inside their bodies, in a special organ, the trophosm, live billions of symbiotic bacteria. The worm, like a lung, absorbs hydrogen sulfide and carbon dioxide from the hot water of the vent and delivers them to the bacteria. The bacteria, in the process of chemosynthesis, produce organic substances that feed both the worm and themselves. It is a perfect symbiosis, a closed ecosystem within a single organism. The bright red plumes of the riftia, filled with blood containing a special hemoglobin that binds both oxygen and poisonous hydrogen sulfide, are the flags of a new chemical era of life burning in the darkness. But not only hot vents serve as oases for such life. On the ocean floor, there are also cold seeps, places where methane and hydrogen sulfide slowly leak from cracks in the seabed. Here, in the cold water, unique ecosystems based on chemosynthesis also form. Instead of riftia, giant bivalve mollusks often dominate here, forming vast mussel beds. They also harbor symbiotic bacteria in their gills, which feed on methane. These cold oases are further proof that life can find a way to thrive by using the most unexpected energy sources hidden in the planet's depths. Around these bustling oases of life on the floor of the cold and desolate ocean, entire ecosystems form, independent of sunlight. Here, one can find giant white clams, Calyptogena, which also live off chemosynthetic bacteria dwelling in their gills. Their size, reaching 30 centimeters, is astonishing, as their shallow water relatives are rarely larger than a fingernail. This gigantism is a direct consequence of the incredible abundance of chemical energy available at hydrothermal vents. Where there is energy, there is an opportunity for growth, even if that energy smells of sulfur and comes from red-hot cracks in the Earth's crust. Even at the microscopic cellular level, the abyss gives birth to its own giants, erasing the boundaries we are accustomed to. Xenophyophores are single-celled organisms, amoeboid protists, that build themselves complex shells from mud, sand, and the skeletons of others, reaching a size of 20 centimeters. They are the largest single-celled creatures in the world. They live on abyssal plains, slowly crawling along the bottom and feeding on bacteria. Their existence is a challenge to our understanding of what a cell is. It blurs the line between unicellular and multicellular life, showing that even a single cell can reach macroscopic sizes if conditions are favorable. Their gigantic size for a single-celled organism is not a whim, but a deliberate way to increase surface area for absorbing scarce nutrients from an environment poor in organic matter. They are not just a cell, but an entire ecosystem. Their porous shell test becomes a home for a multitude of other smaller organisms, worms, crustaceans, creating a local point of biodiversity on the seemingly desolate seabed. This giant protist is not just an organism, but an architect, a builder, creating an oasis of life from silt and sand, a living home built by a single cell. Moving from the seabed back into the silent water column, we encounter another ghostly giant, whose encounters with submersibles can be counted on one hand. This is the giant phantom jellyfish, Stygiomedusa gigantea. It is one of the largest invertebrate predators of the deep. Its bell reaches a meter in diameter, and its 4 thick, velvet-like ribbon oral arms can extend for 10 meters in length. It has no stinging tentacles like other jellyfish. Instead, it uses its long, muscular arms as a net to envelop and capture prey. It moves slowly and majestically, like a dark angel of death soaring in the silence. Its body consists almost entirely of water, which makes it perfectly adapted to the immense pressure and gives it neutral buoyancy. It is living jelly, a colloidal phantom, almost indistinguishable in density from its surroundings. Its dark red, almost black color is perfect camouflage. In a world where light is created only by living beings, the black color absorbs any random flashes of bioluminescence, making the jellyfish virtually invisible against the black water. It is the embodiment of darkness itself, a predator that hunts by becoming part of the infinite void surrounding it. In this same ghostly water column lives another, no less strange creature, the Deepsteria jellyfish. It doesn't resemble a classic jellyfish with a bell and tentacles. Rather, it resembles a living, translucent bag, or the thinnest of films, drifting in the water. It has no tentacles, but it can instantly close the edges of its bag, trapping any unwary prey that finds itself inside. Watching it is like seeing a plastic bag, forgotten in the deep, come to life and hunt. Its form is an extreme simplification brought to perfection, another example of how life sheds everything superfluous for the sake of efficiency in a world of eternal scarcity. In this same world of phantoms and shadows lives the vampire squid, Vampiroteuthis infernalis, which literally translates as vampire squid from hell. Despite its formidable name, it is a small, about 30 centimeters, and completely harmless creature, a true relict. It does not drink blood, but feeds on marine snow, which it collects using two long, retractable filaments. Its name comes from its appearance. A dark webbing, like Dracula's cape, connects its 8 arms, and its large red or blue eyes glow in the dark with an otherworldly light. Its most amazing defense is the ability to turn its cloak inside out, covering its body and exposing the tips of its tentacles, studded with glowing spheres. This creates a dazzling and disorienting flash of light that scares off predators, while the squid itself extinguishes its lights and disappears into the darkness. The vampire squid is a master of illusions, a little magician using light and darkness to survive in a world of large and dangerous neighbors. It proves that in the abyss, it's not just brute force and size that matter, but also the subtle art of deception. There are creatures that make one doubt the very geometry of life, as if they came from dreams of broken marionettes forgotten in a dark closet. Such is the Magnapinna squid, or bigfin squid, an inhabitant of the deepest parts of the ocean. Its body is small, but its arms and tentacles stretch for 8 meters, hanging at a straight, unnatural angle, like long, thin elbows. It doesn't hunt actively, but simply drifts in the darkness, dragging these sticky filaments behind it, like a living fishing net. Any small creature that touches them is doomed to stick and be slowly pulled up to its mouth. It is the embodiment of a passive threat, of quiet waiting, its geometry defying all our notions of movement and hunting in the abyss. If the Magnapinna squid is the geometry of horror, then siphonophores are the geometry of unity. This is not a single animal, but a floating colony of thousands of tiny organisms, polyps, each performing its own function. Some are responsible for movement, others for feeding, and still others for reproduction. Together, they form a single, long, thread-like creature. The siphonophore Priadubia can reach a length of 40-50 meters, making it one of the longest animals on the planet, longer than a blue whale. It drifts in the darkness like a giant glowing garland, spreading its deadly stinging tentacles to catch prey. This is not an organism, but a living state, a floating city. Among these colonial wanderers are the pyrosomes, or fire bodies. These are also colonies, but they form not a thread, but a hollow tube, closed at one end, that can reach several meters in length. Each tiny individual in the colony draws water into the tube, filtering food, and expels it outside. This combined water flow slowly moves the entire colony through the ocean. But the most mesmerizing thing about them is their ability for bioluminescence. If a pyrosome is disturbed, it flashes with a bright, steady blue-green light that can last for hours. These are living lamps, drifting in the night, silent, and beautiful. This life, pulsating in the darkness, participates in the greatest migration on the planet, which occurs every night. This is the Deal vertical migration. At dusk, trillions of tiny creatures, krill, copepods, small fish, and squid, begin their ascent from the depths to the surface to feed on phytoplankton in the food-rich upper layers, and at dawn, they descend back into the darkness, escaping from predators. This daily pulse of life, this great breath of the ocean, transfers an enormous amount of energy and carbon from the surface to the depths, feeding those who never see the sun. It is the largest and most regular transport flow on Earth, and it is completely silent. Ascending higher into the twilight, mesopelagic zone, where the last ghostly light of the sun still glimmers, we encounter the planet's largest filter feeders. The whale shark, the largest fish in the world, can reach 18, and according to some data, even 20 meters in length. Despite its size and the word shark in its name, it feeds on the tiniest plankton, filtering thousands of cubic meters of water per hour through its enormous, gate-like mouth. It is a peaceful giant, slowly and gracefully traveling through warm seas, and its back is covered with a unique pattern of light spots, like a living map of the starry sky. Its gigantism is a strategy of ultimate efficiency in an environment with an abundant but dispersed resource. A large mouth allows it to capture more water with plankton at once, and its huge, inert body allows it to make long migrations between feeding grounds with minimal energy expenditure per kilogram of mass. It lives in a world of relative abundance, where plankton fields bloom under the sun. But its size is, perhaps, a legacy of its deeper water ancestors, an adaptation that has proven extremely useful in the upper illuminated layers of the ocean as well. It is a living link between the world of light and the world of darkness. Like it, the basking shark, the second largest fish on the planet, is also a peaceful filter feeder. It swims slowly near the surface with its mouth wide open, passing water through its huge brush-like gill rakers. It looks like a prehistoric monster, but is completely harmless to humans. In winter, when plankton in the northern waters becomes scarce, it supposedly descends to great depths and enters a state close to hibernation, shedding its worn-out gill rakers and growing them anew by spring. It lives in the slow rhythm of the seasons, in the rhythm of the great blooming and fading of the ocean. These peaceful giants share the ocean with the largest and most active predators, which dive into their dark kingdom from above. The sperm whale, the largest toothed whale on the planet, a true leviathan, is capable of diving to depths of up to 3 kilometers and holding its breath for an hour and a half. Its main target down there is the giant and colossal squid. Its body is a masterpiece of bioengineering designed to combat pressure. Its ribcage can compress like an accordion's bellows. Its lungs are almost completely emptied before a dive, and its blood contains huge amounts of the proteins hemoglobin and myoglobin to store oxygen in the muscles. Its diving physiology is a poem of adaptation. Before a dive, it does not fill its lungs with air, but on the contrary, exhales almost everything to avoid decompression sickness. All the necessary oxygen is stored in its blood and muscle tissues, which are so saturated with myoglobin that its meat is almost black. Its heartbeat slows to a few beats per minute, and blood flow is redirected, supplying only the vital organs, the brain, and the heart. It transforms into a living, economical torpedo, perfectly adapted for a long, cold journey into a foreign and hostile world. The sperm whale's head makes up to a third of its body length and is almost entirely filled with a unique organ, the spermaceti organ. It contains up to 2 tons of a wax-like substance, which the whale can actively cool by passing cold water through its nasal passages, or heat with the flow of warm blood. By changing the temperature and density of this substance, the sperm whale can precisely regulate its buoyancy, hovering at great depths with almost no effort while tracking prey. It is an organ that allows it to be both a submarine and an effective hunter in a world of absolute darkness and cold. The sound produced by a sperm whale is the loudest in the animal kingdom made by a living creature. Its powerful clicks, used for echolocation, reach 230 decibels underwater. This is enough to literally stun and paralyze prey at a distance. In the dark abyss, where sight is almost useless, sound becomes its eyes, hands, and weapon. The sperm whale sees the world through reflected sound waves, creating a detailed acoustic picture of the surrounding void in its enormous brain and finding its giant, ghostly prey within it. But even the mighty sperm whale seems not so large compared to the blue whale. It is the largest animal to have ever lived on Earth, including all dinosaurs. Its length reaches 33 meters and its weight, 200 tons. Its heart is the size of a small car. Its tongue weighs as much as an adult elephant, and a human could swim through its arteries. Yet it feeds on some of the smallest creatures in the ocean, tiny krill, filtering up to 4 tons of this biomass per day. It is a living paradox, a mountain that feeds on dust. Its method of feeding is an act of incredible power and efficiency called lunge feeding. Upon finding a dense swarm of krill, the whale accelerates, opens its enormous mouth wide, and in a few seconds engulfs up to 100 tons of water along with its prey. The pleats on its throat, resembling an accordion's bellows, expand, increasing the volume of its mouth several times over. It then closes its mouth, and with a powerful push of its tongue, forces the water out through its baleen plates, which, like a sieve, strain out the krill. A single lunge like this can give it enough energy for several hours, but it also costs a colossal amount of effort. It is the most large-scale act of feeding on the planet. Its unimaginable gigantism was made possible only by the supportive force of water, which frees it from the tyranny of gravity. On land, such a creature would be instantly crushed by its own mass, its bones crumbling to dust. The ocean is the only environment on our planet capable of sustaining such a colossal life. The blue whale is not just an animal. It is a living, moving ecosystem. Colonies of crustaceans and algae live on its skin, and its death and fall to the ocean floor, a whale fall, creates an oasis of life for deep-sea creatures for decades. The song of the blue whale is a deep, infrasonic rumble that can travel for thousands of kilometers through the ocean's sound channel. It is the lowest and most powerful voice on the planet, lying at the very edge of human perception. These songs, complex and repetitive, are used for communicating with others of their kind over vast distances, for navigating the boundless ocean, and perhaps for something else that we are not yet able to comprehend. Listening to a recording of a whale's song, we hear the voice of the ocean itself, ancient, melancholic, and infinitely vast. This sound travels such distances thanks to a unique phenomenon, the underwater sound channel, or SOFAR channel. This is a layer of water at a depth of about a kilometer, where the speed of sound is at its minimum due to the combination of temperature and pressure. Sound waves that enter this channel are reflected from its upper and lower boundaries and can propagate across the entire globe with almost no attenuation. Whales instinctively use this natural internet so that their songs can be heard across entire oceans. It is a world where a whisper can be heard thousands of miles away. The ocean is not only the cradle of present-day giants, but also the silent, dark grave of giants from the past. On its floor, in sedimentary rocks, lie the bones of the megalodon, a giant shark that reached 20 meters in length and weighed up to 100 tons. Its jaws, studded with teeth the size of a human palm, were capable of biting a small whale in half. It was the apex predator of its era, and its disappearance, several million years ago, completely changed the structure of marine ecosystems, allowing baleen whales to grow to their current sizes. Its teeth are still found on the ocean floor, silent, serrated witnesses to an age when true monsters ruled the seas. Ichthyosaurs, resembling giant fish dolphins, and plesiosaurs, with their incredibly long necks and barrel-shaped bodies, were also once masters of the ancient oceans. Their fossilized skeletons, perfectly preserved in marine sediments, tell us stories of hunting, birth, and death in the warm Mesozoic seas. The deep has preserved their memory, turning their bones to stone, but not erasing their grandeur. Modern giants, whales, sharks, squid, are but an echo of that ancient world, successors to a great dynasty that began hundreds of millions of years ago in the primordial ocean. Even today, the ocean continues to reluctantly reveal its giants. Many species of large creatures have been discovered or studied only very recently. For example, the sharp-nosed seven-gill shark, a primitive and ancient species, can reach 8 meters in length and lives at great depths, rarely appearing at the surface. As its name suggests, it has 7 gill slits instead of the usual 5, which points to its ancient origins. It is a living fossil, a ghost from a time before the dinosaurs that still swims in our oceans, a reminder of the incredible antiquity of life in the abyss. These discoveries are happening not only in the water column, but also on the very bottom. Seamounts, or guyots, which rise from the abyssal plains but do not reach the surface, turn out to be true oases of biodiversity. Their slopes intercept ocean currents, forcing nutrient-rich deep waters to rise. This attracts a huge amount of life, from corals and sponges to large fish and sharks. Many of these seamounts have not even been mapped yet, and each one is a potential lost world, full of unique and possibly gigantic species yet to be discovered. The Mariana Trench is the deepest place on Earth, a scar on the face of the planet, reaching a depth of almost 11 kilometers below sea level. The pressure here exceeds 1,100 atmospheres, which is equivalent to the weight of an entire mountain pressing on a fingernail. And even there, in the pitch darkness and cold, there is life. Giant amphipods live there, crustaceans similar to shrimp, but reaching 30 centimeters in length, 10 times larger than their shallow water relatives. This phenomenon is called abyssal gigantism, and its causes are still a subject of debate. Perhaps it is related to the complete absence of predatory fish and the even lower temperature. Also there, at the very bottom of the trench, Mariana snailfish were discovered, fish resembling translucent, shapeless tadpoles. They thrive at a pressure that would instantly crush any bathyscaphe. Their bodies consist mainly of water, and their bones are flexible and cartilaginous, devoid of calcium. They are the apex predators of their world, a world of eternal darkness, cold, and crushing weight. Their existence is a quiet but absolute triumph of life over the most extreme physical conditions imaginable. Gigantism in the ocean is not a single phenomenon, but a whole spectrum of different evolutionary strategies, a response to different environmental challenges. For some, like the blue whale, It is a way to efficiently feed on abundant but widely dispersed food. For others, like the giant isopod, it is a way to survive long periods of inevitable starvation. For still others, like the Greenland shark, it is a side effect of an incredibly long life in cold water, which slows down all processes. Every giant has its own story, its own unique reason for being large. This phenomenon can also be viewed through the lens of the so-called island rule, which in the ocean, it seems, works in reverse. On isolated islands, large animals tend to become smaller due to limited resources, while small ones tend to grow larger due to the absence of predators. The ocean as a whole can be considered a giant island with nearly infinite resources in the upper layers and extreme scarcity in the lower ones. This creates complex evolutionary pressure that in some cases leads to gigantism and in others to dwarfism, as with male anglerfish. There is a compelling hypothesis that deep-sea gigantism is closely linked to reproductive strategy. In conditions where encounters with a potential mating partner are rare and random, it is advantageous to produce not small and numerous, but very large eggs. Large eggs have a much greater chance of survival, as they contain a larger supply of nutrients for the development of the larva, which will have to exist independently for a long time. And only large females can produce large eggs in large quantities. Thus, the race for the survival of offspring leads to a gradual increase in the size of the parents from generation to generation. Let us consider the body of a deep-sea giant itself. It is often flabby, gelatinous, almost formless when brought to the surface. This is not a sign of weakness or imperfection, but an ingenious adaptation. In order not to fight the pressure, but to equalize it, the organism's tissues become saturated with water, becoming almost the same density as the surrounding environment. This saves an enormous amount of energy that would otherwise be spent on maintaining a rigid body structure. They do not resist the ocean. They dissolve in it, becoming its liquid part. Recall the blobfish, which looks like a normal fish at depth, but turns into a jelly on the surface. Their blood and cells contain special organic molecules, piezolites, such as the aforementioned trimethylamine N-oxide, TMAO. These substances, like molecular springs, protect proteins and cell membranes from deformation and destruction under high pressure. Without them, life at depth would be impossible, as proteins would simply cease to perform their functions. Each cell in the body of a deep-sea giant is a small, perfectly designed fortress built to survive in the most extreme conditions. This is chemistry defeating physics. Even the growth process of these creatures is a quiet miracle, fraught with enormous risk. The Japanese spider crab, in order to grow, must periodically shed its old, tight-fitting shell. At this moment, it is absolutely soft and defenseless, like a newborn. This molting process can take several hours, during which it is vulnerable to any predator, even the smallest one. It is an act of incredible risk and faith, performed in complete darkness for the chance to become bigger, stronger, and continue its ancient lineage. Each new, more spacious shell is a battle won in the long war for growth. Many deep-sea giants, such as most octopuses and squids, practice semelparity, a strategy of reproducing only once in their lifetime. They spend all the energy they have accumulated over many years to create a huge number of eggs, after which they are exhausted and die. This is an all-or-nothing strategy, completely justified in an environment where the chances of survival and repeated reproduction are vanishingly small. Their gigantic size is the result of a long period of growth and resource accumulation for this single, final, tragic, and beautiful act of creation. The death of a giant in the ocean is not an end, but a beginning, an event of almost planetary scale. When a whale dies, its enormous carcass slowly sinks to the bottom, becoming a center of life for many decades. This process has its own name: whale fall. First come the large scavengers, Greenland sharks, hagfish, giant isopods. Then, when only the bones remain, come the ossidax bone-eating worms and bacteria that decompose the lipids contained in the bone marrow. A unique ecosystem forms around the skeleton, which can exist for 50 or even 100 years. The death of one giant gives life to millions of other creatures. Ossidax worms, or zombie worms, deserve a special mention in this grim symphony. They have neither a mouth nor a stomach. The female, resembling a tiny flower, sends out roots that secrete acid, dissolving the bone and absorb nutrients. Inside her body lives an entire harem of microscopic males whose sole function is to produce sperm. These worms are specialists in skeleton disposal, the last participants of the feast, who turn hard bone into new life, continuing the cycle where it seemed only death remained. This slow cycle of life and death is the foundation of the entire deep-sea ecosystem. Giants that feed on the surface and dive into the depths, or those that die up high and fall down, create the so-called biological pump. They actively transfer the sun's energy, locked in plankton and fish, to the darkest, coldest, and hungriest corners of our planet. Without these giant living energy conveyors, the abyssal plains would be much poorer and more desolate. Each giant is a bridge between the world of light and the world of darkness. Even the breathing and life of whales on the surface affect the entire planet. Their excrement, rich in iron and nitrogen, is a powerful fertilizer for surface waters, stimulating phytoplankton growth where these elements are scarce. And phytoplankton, in turn, absorbs enormous amounts of carbon dioxide during photosynthesis and produces almost half of the Earth's oxygen. Thus, the largest animals on the planet support the life of the smallest, which, in turn, support the life of all of us. Everything is connected in the single, slow, deep breath of the ocean. But let's return to a creature that seems woven from mystery itself and pure intellect, the giant Pacific octopus, Enteroctopus dofleini. It inhabits the cold waters of the North Pacific and can reach 9 meters in arm span. It is one of the most intelligent invertebrates on the planet. It is capable of solving complex problems, recognizing human faces, using tools such as coconut shells for shelter, and even playing. Its mind is so alien to ours, with a distributed nervous system where each arm thinks independently, that studying it is like trying to establish contact with an alien intelligence. Its boneless body can change color and texture in a fraction of a second, perfectly blending in with any background, whether it's an algae-covered rock or a sandy bottom. But this is not just camouflage, it is a complex and expressive language. Through constantly changing patterns and shimmering colors on its skin, it expresses its emotions, threatens rivals, and communicates with mates. Its skin is a living screen on which complex visual messages are constantly broadcast. Watching it is like reading a book written in the language of light, shadow, and color. The intelligence of this creature manifests in surprising ways. In aquariums, giant octopuses are known for their ability to unscrew jar lids to get food, dismantle filtration systems out of sheer curiosity, and even move from one tank to another at night to snack on fish. It is a mind that constantly seeks, explores, and manipulates its environment. The tragedy is that this complex, almost philosophical mind is enclosed in a body with a very short lifespan, like a brilliant symphony that ends abruptly in the middle. Like many other cephalopods, the giant octopus lives a tragically short life, only 3 to 5 years. Throughout its life, it grows at an incredible rate, transforming from a creature the size of a grain of rice into a multi-meter giant. And then, after mating, the female finds a shelter for her clutch of tens of thousands of eggs and guards it for many months without eating. She gently washes the eggs with water, cleans them, and slowly starves to death, giving her all to the future generation. Her short but vibrant life is a flash of intelligence and beauty in the cold, dark waters of the north. Diving deeper into the past, we find traces of giants not only in fossilized bones, but also in the genes of modern creatures. Genetic analysis of whales, squids, and deep-sea fish allows for the reconstruction of their evolutionary path to gigantism. Scientists are finding genes responsible for adaptation to high pressure, for slowing metabolism, for insensitivity to oxygen deficiency, and for increasing body size. In every cell of a modern living giant is recorded a detailed history of millions of years of trial and error, the story of a long and difficult journey into the abyss. For example, in sperm whales, seals, and other diving mammals, special mutations have been found in genes related to the response to hypoxia, a lack of oxygen. Their bodies do not just tolerate low oxygen levels. They actively switch to a special mode of operation, constricting peripheral blood vessels and conserving the precious gas only for the most important organs, such as the brain and heart. This is the genetic memory of their ancestors' countless dives, written into the very foundation of their lives. Gigantism is not an evolutionary dead end, but rather a pulsating, cyclical phenomenon. In Earth's history, there have been epochs when giants flourished and epochs when they went extinct, giving way to smaller, faster, and more efficient forms. Their existence depends on a delicate balance of many factors: global climate, oxygen levels in the atmosphere and ocean, food availability, and the presence of ecological niches. Today's giants are, in many ways, relics, surviving keepers of ancient and glorious survival strategies. Our own human impact on the ocean puts these majestic giants at a risk they have not known for millions of years. Global climate change, chemical and plastic pollution, and overfishing that destroys the food base. All of this disrupts the fragile ecosystems on which they depend. Acoustic pollution, the constant noise from ships and sonars, interferes with whales' communication and navigation, leading to mass strandings on shores. Plastic bags in the ocean look so much like jellyfish that turtles and whales eat them and die an agonizing death. The fate of these majestic creatures, which have survived ice ages, asteroid impacts, and supervolcano eruptions, is now in our hands. But can they survive the Anthropocene, the age of man? Their slow rhythm of life, their incredibly long reproductive cycle, where they reach maturity only after decades, or even 100 years, makes them particularly vulnerable to the rapid and destructive changes we are bringing to their world. They evolved for eternity, while we live for the moment. The study of deep-sea gigantism is not just about satisfying scientific curiosity. It is the key to understanding the fundamental limits of life, its incredible resilience, and, at the same time, its fragility. These creatures show us how life can adapt to the most unimaginable conditions, which seem absolutely hostile to us. They are a living reminder of how little we still know about our own planet, and how much we can lose without even having had the chance to understand. Just imagine for a moment a world without the blue whale, without the mysterious, ghostly dance of the oarfish, without the epic unseen battles of sperm whales and colossal squids in the abyss. The ocean would become immeasurably quieter, poorer, and far less mysterious. These giants are not just animals. They are an integral part of our collective imagination, living symbols of the power, mystery, and majesty of nature. They are the poetry of the planet itself, written in the language of flesh, bone, and slow, eternal movement. Even in the most unexpected and seemingly modest groups of animals, we find echoes of deep-sea gigantism. Among jellyfish, there is not only Stygiomedusa, but also the lion's mane jellyfish, which inhabits colder, but surface waters. Its bell can reach 2 meters in diameter, and its thin, hair-like tentacles can extend for 30 meters, like the tail of a comet. It resembles a living galaxy drifting in the ocean currents, and its venom can paralyze a fairly large fish. Among sea stars, usually slow-moving and small, there are also giants. The sunflower sea star, Pycnopodia helianthoides, can have up to 24 arms and reach a meter in diameter. Unlike its relatives, it is a fast and voracious predator, moving rapidly on its thousands of tiny tube feet and hunting mollusks and sea urchins. Its bright orange or purple coloration is a warning of its predatory and insatiable nature. In the cold waters of Antarctica lives the giant Antarctic sea slug, Doris kerguelensis, which can reach 50 centimeters in length and weigh more than a kilogram. In the icy waters, where metabolism is slowed to its limit, even such a simple and soft-bodied organism as a gastropod mollusk gets the opportunity to grow to incredible sizes, slowly crawling along the bottom and feeding on sponges. It resembles a living piece of marbled fat, slowly journeying across the icy desert. This phenomenon, called polar gigantism, is closely related to deep-sea gigantism and is, in fact, a special case of it. In both cases, the key factors are a stable low temperature, which slows metabolism and prolongs life, and the high content of dissolved oxygen in cold water. The Antarctic and Arctic shelves are, in essence, vertical abysses, where conditions similar to the deep sea exist at a relatively shallow, light-accessible depth, creating unique hybrid ecosystems. In these same icy waters lives the giant Antarctic toothfish, a fish that reaches 2 meters in length and weighs more than 150 kilograms. To avoid freezing in water with a sub-zero temperature, its blood contains special antifreeze glycoproteins that coat ice crystals and prevent them from growing. It is the king of Antarctic fish, a slow but mighty predator of the icy kingdom, whose existence is made possible by a unique biochemical adaptation. All these countless examples form a single, majestic picture. The ocean, especially its cold and dark depths, is a giant laboratory of evolution, operating in a slow-motion meditative mode. There is none of the hustle and bustle of the surface here. Life flows slowly, generations succeed one another over centuries, and evolution has time to experiment, to try the boldest and strangest solutions, to create majestic and bizarre forms. Gigantism is one of its most beautiful and complex symphonies. It is music written in the tempo of largo, very slowly, where each note resounds for decades, and the pauses can last for years. It is an architecture built of patience, cold, pressure, and darkness. Every giant creature, from sponge to whale, is a living cathedral built by nature in honor of itself, in honor of the infinite ingenuity of life. Let us return again to pressure, to this all-pervading force. At the depth of the Mariana Trench, it is equivalent to the weight of 50 airliners stacked on top of each other and pressing on an area the size of a postage stamp. How can proteins, these complex and fragile molecules of life function under such conditions. It was recently discovered that water behaves differently under such pressure. It becomes more viscous, and its molecules pack more densely, which prevents proteins from folding and functioning correctly, literally jamming them. Piezolites, which we have mentioned, act as a kind of molecular lubricant or pressure antifreeze. They prevent water molecules from packing too tightly around the protein and disrupting its function. This is the subtlest, almost magical chemistry of life, allowing it to exist where, according to all our intuitive notions, it should not be able to. It is a quiet victory of organic matter over inorganic physics. Now imagine sound in the deep ocean. Due to the high density and incompressibility of water, sound travels 4.5 times faster here than in the air, and with almost no loss. The ocean is not at all a quiet place, as one might think. It is filled with the low-frequency hum of distant earthquakes, the crackle of settling glaciers, the songs of whales, and the clicks of sperm whales. For its inhabitants, hearing and the ability to produce sound are often far more important than sight. It is a world of acoustic images. Some giant fish, for example, rockfish or groupers, are capable of producing low-frequency, booming sounds, using their swim bladder as a powerful drum. These sounds, traveling over long distances, are used to defend territory and attract mates in murky or dark water. In the darkness, voice becomes a way to announce oneself, to delineate one's invisible territory, to find a friend, or to scare away a foe. And what about smells? The currents in the deep are very slow and laminar, and a scent trail from carrion or a living creature can persist for a very long time, stretching for kilometers like an invisible Ariadne's thread. For scavengers, such as isopods or hagfish, the sense of smell is the main and most reliable tool for finding food. They are able to detect the scent of a decaying carcass from many kilometers away and move slowly but surely toward the source of this feast, following the invisible chemical trail. Hagfish or witchfish are other ancient and strange inhabitants of the deep, true living fossils. They have no jaws, but have a powerful oral apparatus with horny teeth, with which they burrow into the body of a dead or dying fish. Their main and most effective defense is the ability to secrete an enormous amount of slime. In a matter of seconds, a single hagfish can turn a bucket of water into a thick, viscous gel that instantly clogs the gills of any predator attempting to eat it. This is a weapon that makes them nearly invulnerable. Gigantism in hagfish is not as pronounced as in other creatures, but their survival strategy is also a kind of evolutionary extreme. They are living fossils that have remained almost unchanged for the last 300 million years. They saw the rise and fall of the dinosaurs, the appearance and disappearance of marine reptiles, and all this time they have continued to do what they do best: wait, find, and devour, remaining almost invisible in their eternal ecological niche. Let's return to the giant squid, that symbol of maritime mysteries. For a long time, it was a cryptid, a creature of legend, just like the Yeti or the Loch Ness Monster. Its existence was confirmed only by giant beaks found in the stomachs of sperm whales, or by rare, partially decomposed carcasses washed ashore after a storm. It was not until 2004 that Japanese scientists, for the first time in history, succeeded in photographing a live giant squid in its natural habitat at a depth of 900 meters. The myth became reality, and the first video of a live giant squid was captured only in 2012. Think about it, a creature the size of a bus, known to humanity through legends for millennia, managed to successfully hide from our eyes and cameras until the 21st century. This speaks volumes about how vast, deep, and unexplored the world's ocean is. How many more giants, how many more incredible forms of life are hiding in this dark, cold water, awaiting their accidental discovery? Every new expedition into deep waters using modern autonomous vehicles and bathyscaphs brings astounding discoveries, new species, new, unimaginable adaptations, and most importantly, new questions. We are on the threshold of a new era in ocean exploration, an era when technology is finally allowing us to peer into places where no one could reach before, and to stay there for extended periods. And every time we lower a camera into the abyss, we, like the scientists on board, hold our breath in anticipation of a miracle. And this miracle happens invariably. We see fish with transparent heads, like the barrel eye, through which their brain and huge tubular eyes, aimed vertically upward, are visible. We see Dumbo octopuses with fins resembling the ears of the cartoon elephant, gracefully hovering above the seafloor. We see creatures that glow with all the colors of the rainbow, and creatures that are so black they absorb 99.9% of the light that falls on them, becoming living black holes. The gigantism of the deep is not an anomaly, not a mistake, and not a quirk of nature. It is the logical and inevitable result of evolution in a completely unique environment, unlike any other. An environment where time flows more slowly, where eternal cold preserves and crushing pressure shapes. An environment where a total lack of food breeds infinite patience, and absolute darkness creates its own living, shimmering light. These giants are not the monsters depicted on ancient maps. They are guardians, guardians of ancient, relict genes, guardians of untold secrets of evolution, guardians of the fragile balance in the largest ecosystem on our planet. They are the silent, unseen sentinels of a vast world that begins where the last ray of sunlight ends, and their existence makes our world immeasurably richer. Their huge, slow hearts beat in unison with the rhythm of the tides, with the slow breath of the planet itself. Their blood flows slowly, like the deep ocean currents that carry water from the poles to the equator over centuries. Their life is one long, deep meditation, stretching across decades and centuries, almost incomprehensible to our short-lived consciousness. They subtly remind us of true scale, that our human life is but a brief, bustling moment compared to the half-millennium lifespan of a Greenland shark, that the largest building we have constructed is insignificant compared to the living body of a blue whale. They restore in us a long-lost sense of humility and reverent awe for the world of which we are a part. When you fall asleep tonight, try to imagine this absolute silence, a silence broken only by the rare, powerful click of a distant sperm whale's sonar searching for its prey. Imagine this impenetrable darkness pierced for just a moment by a random flash of a bioluminescent signal, someone's cry, or a declaration of love, or a warning. Imagine this all-pervading cold that does not kill, but instead preserves and prolongs life. Imagine the slow, majestic movement of a giant phantom jelly, its long, velvety ribbons silently fluttering in the black water. Or the unhurried, vertical soaring of an oarfish, its silvery body reflecting a non-existent, imaginary light. Allow these images to slowly drift through your mind, not lingering on them, just observing. Feel the weight of the water above you, not as a crushing burden, but as a dense, secure embrace. the embrace of the entire planet, which keeps its greatest and most intimate wonders in its deepest, darkest cradle. Let this feeling of weight and tranquility lull you to sleep. Relax every muscle in your body. Make your eyelids as heavy as the shells of an ancient clam. The giants of the abyss do not sleep as we do. They are awake in their eternal night, in their endless, slow dance of life and death. They are the architects of their own underwater worlds, built of water, pressure, and time. They are the living embodiment of patience and resilience, and their calm, imperturbable presence is felt even here, on the surface, like a deep, low hum underlying all the sounds of the world. Their existence is a quiet promise, a promise that the universe is full of wonders, and the most incredible of them may be found not in distant nebulae and galaxies, but right here, beneath the surface of the waves, in the dark, beating heart of our own planet. One only needs to know how to listen to the silence and peer into the darkness to feel them. They are living, breathing proof that emptiness can be fertile and darkness can be full of life and meaning. They are a hymn to resilience, adaptation, and the incredible, at times frightening, beauty of biological form. They are a thought the planet thinks about itself in its deepest and most hidden corners. And as long as they swim in their dark, cold domains, as long as their huge, slow hearts beat, our world remains a place full of mysteries worth unraveling and wonders worth admiring. They are our quiet, invisible, gigantic neighbors living in the house beneath us. Let your breath become as slow and deep as the breath of a sleeping whale. Let your thoughts dissolve in this fathomless, dark blue. Descend to the depths where eternal peace reigns and there is nothing but slow, smooth movement. To a place where there is neither yesterday nor tomorrow, but only an infinite, tranquil now. Down there, time almost stops, stretching into eternity. And in this near eternity dwell creatures woven from the very essence of the ocean, from its cold, its pressure, its darkness. They are its dreams, its thoughts, its silent, profound soul. And tonight, in this quiet journey, we were able to touch them. Let the thoughts of them, of these quiet giants, become the last anchor for your consciousness before it embarks on its own journey through the abysses of sleep. They are the guardians of the depths, and they will guard your peace tonight. Let their slow, eternal rhythm of life become a lullaby for your mind, carrying away all the anxieties and worries of the day. If you enjoy these quiet journeys, I invite you to leave a like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul after another. And now, just breathe. Let your eyes grow heavy, and let the quiet giants of the depths lull your thoughts. Good night.